Good morning, Jay Williams. Welcome to
Good
my
morning.
welcome to my absolutely engaging and exciting podcast. But more than being engaging and exciting, it's getting even better today because I have on a leadership coach and expert, Jay Williams. He's going to be sharing a little bit with us today about his new book, This versus That, talking about some exciting projects he's working on and share a bit of his insights and really expertise in leadership as it comes to leading your own teams. I have the privilege of knowing Jay through the industry of hair, which is where I met him just about a year ago. And he has fast become a very informative, interesting, well-connected, and very supportive friend of mine. Jay, I'm going to call you a friend. Is that okay?
Are we a friend or friendly?
Too soon. Friendly. Jay
Friend,
Williams
okay.
is a friendly face to me when I get to run into him at events, but not my friend, to be clear. Not my friend. Okay, awesome.
Not yet. Not yet.
What does it take? What does it take for that?
That's a good question. It's a good transition. It probably takes what it takes to be a good leader is trust and respect.
Okay. So
good transition.
Trust and respect. This is a perfect transition. Tell me a little bit more about what trust and respect means to you, but especially as it pertains to the work you're doing, helping leaders excel.
Well, I think it's the foundational pieces, and I'd love to take credit for it. There's a social psychologist, Amy Cuddy, and she wrote this book, Presence. And in her research, which was done globally, she said there's two things that human beings inherently and globally seek out in every interaction: trust and respect.
Okay.
Yes. So foundationally, with the work that I do, it always starts off with those two components. And one, how do you define it? And I think there's Stephen Covey Jr. probably has the most simplistic and most functional explanation of trust. And it's a combination of character and competence. And character being a combination of intent. Why do you do things? And integrity. Do you do what you say you're going to do? And then competence being around capabilities. Can you do it? And results. Have you done it? So I would share that as a common definition when you talk about trust.
I like that definition, and imagine that it's actually really applicable for any leaders listening today to understand how important it is to have the character piece involved. And competence, it's hard to imagine a lot of leaders gaining the position they have without some degree of competence. But, I would say, unfortunately, there are enough leaders out there that don't actually have a large degree of competence. Trust is huge, though. Can you talk a little bit more about what it looks like to gain the trust of your team?
Well, you alluded to the fact that maybe the competence is there and it's more of a character issue when you build trust. And my experience has been, and as I share it with you, I think it'll resonate immediately, is more often than not, regardless of the industry, the super worker becomes the supervisor. So you have that great chemist, you have that great engineer, that great mechanic, maybe the great stylist, and they're your best. So now you make them your leader. And now there's a whole different job description. And the reality is if you had a job description for that leader role, that person probably wouldn't be the ideal candidate.
Right.
And so quite often with leaders, where they can gain the trust is really in the character space. And, I work with leaders who are new to leadership, people at the midpoint of their career, the organization, and executives at the very top. And if there's an area that they have to enhance their trust, it's in the character portion of it. Because as you move up the organization, again, there's going to be some exceptions as you listen, depending on the industry. But if you were picked to be a leader, they're going to focus more on your ability to lead people and get group results versus how you were promoted, which is an individual contributor.
Right. And I do think sometimes people wind up in leadership by default when it might not be their primary skill set. I'm from the hair world. A lot of people listening know that. So my experience working with salon owners across the country, US and Canada, is finding that there's a lot of people who are really excellent at their art, at their craft, at their guest experience. And they might become the manager or the leader of their team, or they decide to buy a salon or acquire a salon. So in my space, when people do this, I'm finding that a lot of them were really well equipped to do a killer job behind the chair. And then when it comes to being in the position of leading a team of 10 creatives like themselves, the wheels can fall off, or they find themselves doing it, not really being prepared for what leadership entails. What advice do you have for people in that position, whether it's that chemist or engineer or hairstylist, in my case, who winds up finding themselves in a leadership position, maybe without the skill set and leadership that's needed? What kind of advice do you have for those people starting off or finding themselves in that position?
That's a great question. I wish I had a good answer for you.
Because us
I
people
don't.
need your help, Jay Williams.
Yeah, here's where I'd love to give you a little bit of peace is that there's been this age-old discussion: are leaders born, or leaders grown, or leaders made? And if you're in what you just described, that scenario where leadership is required, and through, like, to your point, default, you've wound up being that person, there are skills that you can learn, and you can develop the thinking, the skills, and the confidence to be an effective leader. If you're quite, so that's the first thing, is the belief system that you can do it.
Can I add a word there, or like like
Yeah.
the concept of being growth minded, knowing that this is something you are capable of learning. So anybody listening who might find themselves frustrated or flagging in leadership, Jay, your message to them is it is a skill. It is learnable. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's absolutely. I mean,
Cool.
it would almost be a falsehood or a myth to say you're born with leadership skills. And
Okay.
when I ask you, if I just ask you, give me two attributes or skills that you think that great leaders have, just throw two out at me.
I would say confidence and compassion are two that come to mind.
Okay. Well, I'd ask, are you born with those two things?
I
Or are those
mean,
things
some of
that
us were.
develop? Yeah, the exception, yes.
So the average human is born with very little. Like they're learning how to breathe and eat. So no, they're not necessarily born with those skills.
Yeah, food, water, and shelter might be the primary concerns
Right.
for a newborn. And so the things that you mentioned, those are skills. You can become more compassionate. You can become more confident. You can become a better communicator, a better listener, a better of asking questions. You can become more emotionally intelligent. And I think if we pause there and you said, well, okay, where does this new leader start? It would be with their emotional intelligence.
Okay. I think
I'm
that
reading the audience. You want a definition of emotional intelligence.
tell us more about, and I mean, we first talked about there's two facets here, but let's go with then tell us more about emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, there's several definitions. So here's one that I would offer just to get all the listeners in the same page. It's simply your ability to identify and understand an emotion, both in yourself and others, and adjust your behavior accordingly. So if I netted it out, it's to identify and understand an emotion and adjust your behavior.
So that piece is going to be the maybe, and I said compassionate, but empathetic, where I mean, there are people who are able to identify emotions. There's a lot of work around this, especially. I mean, I'm a parent of 3 children, and you have a couple of children of your own. A lot of parenting material around identifying, naming emotions, understanding them, and helping children to do the same. For those of us who might not have been born in that kind of a household, you're suggesting that these are skills we can learn. And I might even say, I'm going to go so far as to say, that we must learn, especially if we find ourselves in a position of leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's a non-negotiable. It's the studies and the data is overwhelming as it relates to emotional intelligence. And if you're listening and you're saying, well, compared to what? It'd be your EQ, your emotional quotient, emotional intelligence being the same thing, or your IQ, your intellectual quotient.
Okay.
And for many, many years, and maybe hundreds of years, we believe that this IQ was somehow an indicator or a predictor of success. And studies that were done in the early part of the 80s, 82, 83, quickly identified when they looked at people who were having this level of success that seemed to be far beyond their peers, they saw that there's this new intelligence, this emotional intelligence. And so 70% of the time, people with a higher EQ outperform their counterparts with a higher IQ. They showed on average people with a higher EQ outperform their counterparts with a higher IQ earn, by $29,000 a year.
Okay.
So there is a science that is attached to this. And so for anyone who has a high IQ, and like I said, I work and focus on people that have a high IQ. And what's the missing component to their success, or what would supercharge their success, is this emotional intelligence. One of the differentiating features about emotional intelligence, your IQ is fixed from 15 to 50. There's been some slight movement, but nothing that categorically puts you in a different place.
What
Your
happened at
emotional
51?
At 51, things dramatically change.
That's it. All
Dramatically.
the wheels fall off. Okay,
Yes, it completely changes. So we just stopped the study at 50. Yeah, it supported our current thinking, and that was good enough. For anybody who's listening as a research person, I'm kidding. Emotional intelligence can grow and grow and grow and grow. And so for people who are leaders, if you now understand that it may not be my IQ, but my EQ that will supercharge this leadership, this connection, this emotion, then the good news is this is something you could learn. With the little to no movement in IQ, when people thought that was an indicator of success, people became disheartened and said, hey, I can't be a leader. I'll never be better at this. And the reality is that you can.
I love that. That's actually a really hopeful and empowering message that you're delivering here. And I appreciate it, because I think a lot of individuals who find themselves in leadership, whether they be entrepreneurs who I work with primarily, or someone who has climbed the ranks of an organization that they take over or that they begin leading for, it can be really overwhelming and disheartening to feel like, hey, I don't know what to do to lead this team, or I don't know how to take this and pick it up. And what you're telling me and what you're telling the listeners is that this is absolutely learnable. And it's something that, especially given some of those statistics at the $29,000 a year average income boost that increasing your EQ could provide, as well as, was it 75% higher?
70% of the time, someone with a higher emotional intelligence outperformed their counterpart with a higher IQ.
The 70%, that's a big advantage on two fronts, is what I'm hearing from you. And so that's reason alone, whether or not you're leading a team, leading your children, leading any kind of anything, whether you're leading the people that you share sales ideas with, like it could just be your clients. If you are just, for me, again, like let's talk about me behind the chair. If I'm just leading my interactions with my client one-on-one, if I can learn a higher EQ, that is going to have a direct correlation on multiple factors of my life being more positive and increasing the benefits.
Yeah, I mean, you articulated well. We could use an example in the beauty space. So for people who are listening, and I could easily use it in any space, but you look at the beauty space, and I think we both have known people who are technically good. They should be doing editorial work. They should be doing runway work, and they do. And then they get back into the salon and they have little to no book of business and they have low retention. And you've seen people like, God bless them, you don't know how they get up and get out of bed, dress themselves in the morning and get to work. But you love them as an owner. Their peers love them. Their clients love them. And they have this 70, 80, 90% retention. And so, I mean, that's just as an example as a stylist. But you look at doctors and, studies have shown that 9 out of 10 people who leave their doctor leave for non-technical reasons.
Okay.
And so you look at a doctor who maybe doesn't have this bedside manner, right? If they learn this emotional intelligence, the ability to identify and understand an emotion. So maybe this patient's coming in and maybe there's a little apprehension. Maybe they're nervous. This is life threatening. And maybe the doctor sits down in front of them, pushes the tray aside. You can see how this emotional intelligence to identify, understand, adjust the behavior. I need to slow things down. By slowing down their communication, they could speed up the relationship.
And I imagine you've heard it said that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? I think that's it's a
I
branch of the
have.
military, but the
Okay.
concept that like in slowing down can smooth out the process, smooth out a relationship hiccup, again, interpersonally, professionally, in any way. And that in turn is going to speed up the process of turnaround, of problem solving, of essentially, if we're going to look at this, as a person who's working on EQ consistently, and I'm happy to know that it's not fixed. Even when I hit 50, I've still got upside potential. So as someone who's pretty passionate about this myself, and I'm so grateful, I have to give a shout out to my mom, who I say is like Jesus and Mother Teresa had a baby, and that was my mom. So the woman was very, yes, let that sink in. I'm so sorry to everybody else who didn't get to be her daughter. But my mom was very committed to the concept of EQ, and before it was even coined such. And I can see the benefits in her interactions and in things that might have been a bigger, more tumultuous, more traumatic or chaotic interaction. And I mean, it's like being a conflict negotiator, someone who has those skills to identify the emotions in another person and in themselves, and then to react accordingly. And that's a huge piece, because I can be like, well, he's spicy, and then I'm going to go at it and just like double down on my feistiness, versus looks like Jay. And if you can't see Jay, if you want to watch the YouTube later, but it looks like Jay is having a rough day. So I'm going to be a little bit more.
Rough hair day.
He looks fresh as a daisy. But let's say that I perceive that. I'm going to start to adjust my approach. And maybe I need to, let's say we're working together and I've got a project that you're late on, or a report that you submitted incorrectly. And I'm starting to perceive that something else is going on behind the scenes. We do need to address the behavior, but it sounds like you're suggesting that I would slow down. I would get to know a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes, offer some compassion. Some coaching would be more well received at that point, if we're having a human connection and I'm implementing some skills with EQ at that point. I'm guesstimating then that the turnaround time between you giving me the results I want is going to shorten, and that the results are going to be improved once you, let's say, feel connected with, understood, or coached in a way that really supports your holistic well-being, versus Jay, the reports are late, they were wrong, I'm coming down on you hard on this. I can see that there would be a difference in the results that I would have as a leader if I was to learn those skills.
You talked about empathy early on, which you're articulating, giving examples of. When you look at emotional intelligence, the foundational piece is empathy. And then it drives the question, well, what's the difference between empathy and sympathy? And so, an empath takes on the energy and thinking of the person around them. So for anyone listening, kind of a low hanging fruit example, if somebody had a dog and something happened to the dog and you're listening and you become sad and you cry, there's a good chance you're an empath. Somebody sympathetic intellectually knows the reaction and what to do and what to say. And I'm not an empath. I don't take on the energy and thinking. There's been studies done. People believe that you may be born in that state of being an empath. There's certainly things that could stifle that, and you're no longer empathetic, but you become sympathetic. And so for people who are listening, empathy is so a strong component of this. 4 pillars to this emotional intelligence, which you just modeled, is that one, it's self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, and then relationship management. And so you began to lay that out as far as realizing where your emotions are, and then regulating that, the impact of your emotions on other people, and then how you manage those relationships. And so the example you just gave would check each one of those boxes.
It's my mom's fault. I'm going to blame her if I got that right. So I only blame her for the good things, though. Everything else is my dad. Just kidding. I love my dad too.
Does your dad listen to your podcast?
My dad listens whether or not he likes to, because he's a good guy and I love him. But the truth is, what you're describing here, I think, is really empowering, because there's hope for all of us, even those of us who aren't born naturally with empathy or who haven't seen that skill set modeled, to begin making an effort today. No reason not to start to notice what other people are experiencing, and maybe calibrating our reactions to reflect that a little bit more compassionately. And I'm really appreciating what I'm hearing from this, because I've been able to work with alongside leaders who have led me that demonstrate that. And it's made a huge difference in my willingness to be compliant, or my desire to really show up better. And at the end of the day, we want our teams to produce more, to cut cost, and to be more efficient. At the bottom line needs to be enhanced, right? That's the whole point of working and running business. And it sounds like if we only focused on that bottom line, we'd miss out on a lot of the other things that are going to actually help move that needle forward. So I love that you're talking about this and helping us with that. Do you want to talk a little bit now about the trust piece, or give us a little bit more insight into that component?
Well, I'd say with the trust piece, I would like to make a shameless plug at this point, if that's okay.
I would like you to reference something from your book that helps us understand these concepts, This Versus That by Jay Williams himself.
Oh, I'm not going to plug myself. Sorry. No? I should have. Yeah, there is someone that has one foot in the beauty industry. Her name's Pepper Pastor, and she has her doctorate in organizational development. She was a stylist at one time, went back, and she has her master's in organizational development, if she ever listens to this, and her doctorate in the neuroscience of leadership. Started out as a stylist. Her thesis was the correlation between emotional intelligence and retention. And so one of the disconnects that I see is that when we talk about things like this, regardless of the industry you're in, people have coined it the soft skills. And it's really the hardcore skills, that's easy for me to say, that business is made of. Right. And so when she did her thesis, she found that there was a correlation between a higher emotional intelligence and retention, referral, rebooking, reviews, recommendations, and relationships. So even if you go, this is soft stuff I'm not interested in, I would say this. With anything I do, I try to create a compelling human case. For those of you who don't care about humanity, there is a compelling business case for everything we're going to talk about on this podcast. So for the emotional intelligence, the trust, these things that we talk about, they are linked to business. When you look at trust, and you had asked about that, is that studies have shown the higher the level of trust, the higher the speed in which things happen. And companies that need to move quick, and business is built off of momentum, have this high level of trust and can move exceptionally quick when they need to.
I love that. Not to mention, and I'm only guessing this because I don't know for a fact, only from personal experience, but the higher the level of trust, the higher the level of spend typically as well. Because I find that when I've seen anybody that I trust selling something, I buy it, right? If I trust you and you suggest something and say, hey, I know that this package or product or vehicle or whatever thing it is, it makes sense, but I would go this route instead, I'm going to consider that if I trust you. Whereas if you're just some, slick talker that I don't really have a relationship with, and you're telling me something, I'm like, yeah, of course, if you're a hammer, I'm a nail, I'm not going to really listen to you. But if I have that trust developed, my buy-in's going to be higher and my spend is typically going to be higher as well. Are there any statistics you know of to support that?
There aren't any that I know of. What I would share with you from an academic standpoint is if you break down trust into character and competence, what you just articulated, if I trust someone's intention, and for anybody who's listening, it probably doesn't apply to you. But if you look at the automotive space, for anyone who's old enough, if you go back 30 years or so, which isn't that long ago for anybody listening, 1990s or so, there was a stigma attached to people who sold cars. Mm-hmm. There's a stigma attached to a quote unquote used car salesman, right?
Yeah.
There's a movie made about it, and they did not trust their intentions. And so, are you going to sell me financing? Are you going to sell me a warranty? Are you going to sell me a tire package? Right.
Right.
And so, to the credit of, and I just want to have a business, the applicability in the business case is that the automotive industry was perceptive enough to realize this. And they renamed that whole process pre-owned vehicles, right? And so, to your point, what happens is that they were trying to build trust such that when the trust is high, to your point, and the spend is higher, is because the price becomes secondary
Right.
to the trust that they have in the individual. And we've all experienced that this isn't what I budgeted, but I trusted that individual. Their character, their intent, and their integrity and their capabilities and their results. That's why I went to that Michelin star restaurant. That's why I bought that handbag, right? That's why I invested in this car. That's why I went to that travel agent. You can pick any industry. I think we've all experienced that.
And to that point, that's why I suggest working with Jay Williams if you're looking to enhance your leadership. Because the truth of the matter is, Jay is a person that, like I said, I've been privileged to know, definitely not friends with, just friendly.
Friendly, not yet. Not yet.
Not friends with yet, but friendly with,
yes.
Because, and I trust you, Jay. So that's probably why I would go say you are a friend of mine, because I trust you. Your investment in the people that you meet, your support of bettering the communities that you interact with, and your ability to really find a need and fill a need and making connections is so genuine and spontaneous. And I think it's a real skill. It's a soft skill, right? Like you're saying that it's been coined, but it's a critical skill for not only building successful business, but for building healthy communities, networks of people, and frankly, making the world a better place. And I think that's something that I see you do on a regular basis through your work. So I would like to know a little bit more about your work. Jay has an upcoming, has it launched officially, your Smarter Room Mastermind?
Tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow.
asmarterroom.com tomorrow.
Okay, a Smarter Room is tomorrow when the website becomes official?
Yes, there will be. Yes, everything's done. And tomorrow, yes, asmarterroom.com.
Well, this is really exciting. Now, tomorrow, as of the day of this recording, which is January 16th, 2025, this will not be airing in time for people to get to be the first ones to click on your website. However, very excited to congratulate you on that project. Tell us a little bit more about a Smarter Room and what it would be like to work with you in this space, whether or not I'm a new leader who needs the supercharge my leadership skills and where I'm going with it, or I'm an existing leader who really wants to up level. Tell me who it is ideal for you to work with and what they can expect when joining you in a Smarter Room.
So the first question I've gotten is, how'd you come up with a Smarter Room? So there is a saying, and the person's unknown, said that if you're the smartest person in the room, you need a new room. And so that's the idea of a Smarter Room. And for some people, they were the smartest person in the room because they're an individual contributor and they were subject matter expert. Like you said, it could be a doctor, it could be a chemist, a machinist, a stylist, a lawyer. And the idea is that you get into this room and that we would give you an MBA type of education without the homework, without the student loans, and without the time.
Whatever that is, I want that plan. Okay, give me that MBA without any of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it was a reflection of how people are learning. And so it's once a month for 90 minutes. And we do it with 8 like-minded leaders. And the number is intentional. A lot of it has to do with data and studies. But what I found informally is the higher the number of attendees, the lower the engagement. The lower the number of attendees, the higher the engagement. So that's where the 8 comes around. The 90 minutes and us doing it virtually was really an opportunity for companies that maybe had a hybrid workforce where some people worked in the office and some worked around the country or the world, could come together in this intimate, elevated environment. Or for someone that said, hey, we don't want to do the spend on the travel. We'd really love to invest that in the education. We don't want to take people out of their environment and lose them for a day. So that's where the once a month, 90-minute, 8 individuals came from. We use my book, This versus That. There's 29 chapters. And it was really the things that I encountered were pinch points as I worked with organizations and leadership. There's a chapter on trust. There's a chapter on values. There's one leadership versus management, commitment versus compliance, conversation versus confrontation. Everybody would recognize, yeah, these are the areas that were kind of speed bumps or pinch points for us. So in a very engaging and interactive format, that's easy for me to say, a very engaging interactive format.
There you go.
I'm not a public speaker, okay? That's please. I don't want anybody to misunderstand that. I just do stand-up comedy. That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that was the idea is, and in this format, there's some peer-to-peer learning that the studies are showing are yielding tremendous results. And then there's some leader-led where there's subject matter expertise where these people can get real-time coaching.
I think that's incredibly valuable. And when you're discussing the accessibility by being able to meet virtually, and so many of us now, I mean, please deliver it virtually on demand and make it available in 20 time zones. And if I'm traveling, I can join. What I think is really cool about this is the accessibility that you're going to be able to impact. And, like you said, 8 leaders at a time, that's very intimate. It sounds like it can be very bespoke and very collaborative, as you mentioned, increased engagement with the smaller group numbers. So it's going to feel very intimate and sounds like a very supportive community. But tell me, is that community, are you just going to run one a year? Or how many opportunities will there be to join in your smarter room community for those leaders who are listening in maybe down the road if they're not able to join you on your first wave of leaders?
Yes. So this is going to be a one and done. I'm going to do it once and never, ever, ever do it again. So right now we just launched this beginning of the year. We have 5 that are launched simultaneously now.
Okay.
So if you're an organization, it shows up in a couple of ways. Within the industry, as an example, within the beauty industry, there's all of these entrepreneurs. So we have the benefit of different leaders from across the country. They're like-minded leaders, but bring some different experiences.
Yeah.
For organizations that are large enough, we are also doing it internally for their leaders. So what it does is it develops this common verbiage and terminology and thinking and skill set. So if you're an organization and you have multiple leaders, as an example, we did for one organization, multiple departments. So we had 5 going on within their organization with 5 different departments.
Essentially, you could work with one organization running 5 groups. So you'd be able to impact 40. I can do math. 8 times 4. Is that how many you have? Do you cap it at 8 in your...
Hold on a second. Let me get my abacus here.
Are you capping it assuming you're capping it at 8? Let's say I want to bring into my organization to work with all of my leaders and there's 40 of us. You would run 5 groups and be able to okay. So that's great. You can do this. So if someone wants to engage you as a contractor to just work with their industry, we can run a smarter room coaching protocol with them. And then you're going to just one release, one day. That's it. You don't sign up, you missed it. But you're going to have ongoing groups. But each group that you lead at a time will only be 8. So if I join your group and I want that specific attention to my detail, that's going to happen if I join the group. And there's going to be multiple opportunities to jump in. Maybe I take the training, think this is amazing. I can put one of my leaders through it or 2 of my leaders through it later and give them the same verbiage and help us all be aligned toward that goal of higher impact leadership is what you're telling me?
Yeah, you mentioned a word about alignment. And so we focus on agreements, alignment, and accountability. And I would tell you, regardless of the industry, that is the number one challenge is how do I hold my people accountable to the agreements we already have in place? We have the agreements. How do we hold them accountable? And this was interesting during COVID. And I think it plays out in a different way for a different reason is that people say, I want to hold my people accountable. But if I hold them to the ultimate accountability, I could lose my person and I don't have someone to replace them. And so by doing this by industry and being able to take the things that are unique to an industry and speak to it and apply this quote unquote theory so that it has this applicability, we talk about those things. So we can show you now. And I think people don't want to lose the people they have now. I think some people do, and we'll help you lose those people. Yes, we will allow them to be successful somewhere else. Yes.
We can release them with love out into the workforce. And the ones that we want to keep, we can rehabilitate with love. Either way, Jay Williams has an answer for you.
Yes. So, if you want to coach them to stay or to go, we can help you.
Perfect. And that can be a really difficult thing is I think a lot of leaders, especially in like a high touch or an emotionally connected kind of industry. Again, anybody listening knows I'm a salon owner before anything else. And now I lead another team for Spark, my executive assistant firm. But regardless, I am in high contact with my team. It's really hard to give coaching that is constructive, that's going to uplift and elevate the brand and what's happening within in the business without alienating key people or without them feeling picked on or micromanaged. And sometimes at this point, it is hard for our teams to receive feedback. So that's just such an important skill set to learn how to deliver it. And like you said, maybe we want them to go. Right. Well, learn how to do that gracefully and in a healthy way. And then also learning how to coach the people that you want to keep to newer heights so that they can continue within their agreements and aligning with the vision. I love it, Jay. I'm excited. I'm excited to see who you impact and how and where this goes. Very, very thrilled to have you as a guest today. I appreciate your generosity and time and sharing so much about what you understand about leadership and how to grow and develop leaders. Anybody who works with Jay will be very, very lucky to do so. And I can only guarantee that their lives will be impacted for the better. So please check out Jay. Tell us where we can find you if we want to work with you. And we will also include these details in the show notes. Go ahead, Jay.
You can find me at your local bar at about 5 o'clock. Yes. So wherever you live, if you go down there. Yes. I only drink club soda, though, and a lime with a jalapeno, in case you're wondering.
I have a lime club soda and 2 jalapenos next time we'll be together, but okay.
Okay, yes. No, for someone who just wants to have a chat and find out, is this right for them, they can go on LinkedIn and Instagram is really where I spend my time. So you can go to Jay Williams Co. And what you're going to get is just bite-sized pieces of information there that I hope will be interesting, will definitely be useful. And then you can go to the website, which is thejwco.com. You just go to the right corner, click on the menu, go down to connect, and you can schedule a time that works best for you to ask questions, or if you just want to have a chat as it relates to your situation.
Or if you're anything like me, just because you miss your friendly, potentially soon to be friend, Jay Williams, you want to connect, hear what's new in his world. You want to hear where he recommends the best place to get food when you're somewhere traveling the country, because he also has great food recs. The man is a resource, an abundant connector, and worth connecting with. So please reach out to Jay, find him on Instagram and LinkedIn. And by all means, best wishes and congratulations on the Smarter Room. And I already feel like I'm smarter with just speaking with you for the last 40 minutes. I can only imagine what 90 minutes once a month would do for me. So thank you guys. Thank you, Jay, for being with us. And thank you everyone for listening. That's all for today. We can't wait to see where you go with your leadership with this information that Jay has given you. Now we're going to close it up. That was it. So now we're done and then they'll edit it. So thank you, Jay. You're supposed to be off this call right now. Are you okay on time?
Yes, I have 3 minutes. I built in a little margin.
Perfect. I was watching that a little nervous. I was like, are we okay? Okay, good. Good.
No, I appreciate that. I have 3 minutes there. I connected you with somebody that I'm working with already today.
Okay.
And that's that.
Isn't that ironic? I'm like, I haven't even looked at my phone yet. So also you've perfect.
Yeah. So I think she has about 45, 48 employees. Just kind of depends on the day. And, might fall into traditionally some of the salon owners, like overwhelmed, a lot going on, ADD. Just a good-hearted individual, though. So awesome. I think she could use you. Yes.
I only like cantankerous bitches, but I'll be willing to give her a call.
She might be able to check the box, not
Perfect.
intentionally, but unintentionally,
Perfect.
not with me.
Also,
but
my dream in
says,
life
yeah.
is to be trustworthy. What was it? You have to trust me
And
and
respect.
respect me. I'll probably be fine on the trust part, but the respect, woo, out the window. Okay, well, awesome. Thanks for your time, Jay. I really appreciate it. I got to see you 3 times this week.
Yes, you did. Your credit card's in the mail.
Did you put anthrax with it?
Well, it's a white envelope with a white card, so
It'll be just fine.
what color?
Okay.
What color is? I'm not saying the word in case this is recorded, but what
Anthrax?
color is that stuff? Yeah,
I think it's white. I don't know. I haven't really mailed it. It's been a while. So Big Brother's watching. I'm going to get arrested in a minute.
Again, I did not say that. Hopefully they could differentiate.
You're fine. Yes. Of course, they can figure out who's talking. But yeah, listen, I got to talk to you Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Maybe by next week I can call you my friend.
Hopefully you will not do anything else wrong and karma will not punish you anymore and you're good. So thank you for
loves me. It's fine.
Me. It does love you. Your mom loves you. Your dad loves you.
Maybe even Jesus too, whether or not you believe in him.
Yeah, what did you say that was so sacrilegious? Like Mother Teresa and Jesus, really? Did I think on Match.com those two would...
I did not say Match.com. I just said like she's like a composite of those embodiment of those qualities. But maybe you got like a kinky side view. It's not. I cannot help where people's minds go when I say things like that. That's on you.
Funny skit. I'm not doing it for fear I wouldn't go to heaven, but funny skit. Jesus on Match.com, right?
I have a friend who looks like Jesus, and he is on probably all the dating sites. We'll have to maybe see what we can do with him and his content. Okay, it's good talking. Go be on time to your call.
See ya. Bye. 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 Bye.